Hi, my name is Kati and I'm a PhD student at Tel Aviv University. Today I'll be presenting you a joint project with Ehud Lam about how insights from social identity theory combined with insights from norm psychology can provide us a more comprehensive account of group behavior. Now, people's attitude towards social norms play a crucial role in understanding group behavior. But what makes people follow certain norms in certain social circumstances, while in other social circumstances they follow entirely different, perhaps even contradicting social norms? Why do some people smoke when socializing with friends, while the same people would never light up a cigarette in family gatherings or at workplaces? In this paper, we want to evaluate the possibility that to better understand people's adherence to social norms, we must simultaneously take into account theories about norm psychology alongside theories about social identity theory. Now, social identity theory was developed in the early 70s by the social psychologist Henrietta Juffel and his colleagues. They found out that people tend to immediately identify and establish in-group and out-group attitudes, even in random, meaningless, and temporary group assignments. They distinguish between three mental processes that occur when people classify themselves and others as belonging to the in-group or to the out-group. And the first is social categorization, when we assign people to social categories that tells us something about them. The second is social identification, when people adopt the identity of their group and conform to the group norm. And the third is social comparison, when people compare their own group with other groups in order to maintain a feeling of superiority. Now, social norms are part of the second stage of social identification, but they are often described solely as attributes of the group, and as such, individuals do not necessarily have a deep sense of personal commitment to those norms. Since people change groups very often, they also change their norms very quickly, so norms are not necessarily internalized. However, a different picture regarding social norms emerges when we shift the focus to individuals' norm psychology. Norm psychology refers to the psychological underpinnings of norm-governed behavior. This figure, taken from Chudik's and Henrik 2011 paper, suggests that there are several mechanisms for sustaining cooperation in social norms that operate within groups and affect intergroup competition, and this selects for the psychological adaptations for norms. In turn, these psychological adaptations facilitate cooperation within the group and competition between groups. One of the components of norm psychology is the ability to acquire norms. Norms are acquired through processes of norm internalization, in which norms become goals in themselves, as in such, become a significant part of a person's identity. Now, processes of norm internalization begin in early childhood, which makes it extremely difficult to change an individual's internalized norm. The internalization of norms helps people navigate the social landscape, but it also implies a less flexible behavior, since once you internalize a norm, it becomes a part of your personality that is much less subject to change. Now, from putting these two pictures side by side, arises the question, what is being internalized? According to norm psychology accounts, people's attitude towards social norms is determined by norm internalization, and it is through norm internalization that an individual acquires her status as an in-group member. Social identity theory, however, proposes an opposite picture, when an individual's attitude towards social norms is determined by her level of identification with the group, and it is only when she categorizes herself as a group member that she follows the group norms. We want to suggest that human behavior is shaped by both approaches. Norm psychology theories focus on different psychological characteristics than social identity theory, and vice versa. Nonetheless, each approach acknowledges the relevance of the other, even if only as a marginal sidekick. We propose an integrated approach that views people's behavior as residing within some sort of a continuum, ranging from flexible attitudes towards norms to less flexible attitudes towards norms. The ability of people to recall and adopt norms and to notice and condemn norm violators is influenced by processes of social identity as well, and their ability to favor group identity or change norms when it is socially necessary is influenced also by processes of norm acquisition and activation. Depending on the social context, both norm content and social identity may be adjusted by the individual. This adjustment, we suggest, is the result of the mutual influence that the processes of norm internalization have on social identity and that processes of social identity have on individuals' norm-governed behavior. So to conclude, we want to suggest that the internalization of social identity and social norms are processes that interact constantly and are hard, if not impossible, to separate. Both affect human predisposition to impose social categories that produce group boundaries. Now, in complex societies, normative behavior results from the negotiation of social identity, since people need to adjust quickly to the changing social circumstances. The interplay of norms with dynamic social identity can often lead to a mismatch between a society's degree of tightness and the degree of individuals' commitment to the group norms. And therefore, it can also explain why a country with many conservative groups appears to be relatively loose and the other way around. So this is it. If you have any comments or questions, please contact me. And if you want to read the full version of the paper, please scan this QR code. Thank you very much for listening.